So first, I'd like to break down what I witnessed in that fight between Alex Poatan Pereira and Magomed Ankalaev last night. Um, it was a great fight. I think it was a great fight. I had Magomed Ankalaev winning. I'm seeing more and more people that have had Magomed Ankalaev winning. I'm also seeing a fuck ton more people who had Pereira winning. I think there's a case for both. And in the sport of MMA, decisions are always so controversial, or at least seemingly close decisions are. And they're controversial for a central, blatant reason. And that reason is scoring for MMA is incredibly complicated. It is. There are so many facets of the sport that you can consider, negate, put emphasis on. There's so many things in a fight. You know, for example, something that a lot of people don't really think about is demeanor after a fight. Are your hands raised or is your head bowed like you lost? That is a big thing when you finish a fight. You always finish the fight with your hand raised if it's a decision, and you act like you won. Even if you felt you lost, act like you won, because that may be just enough to sway the judges. And I know that may seem far-fetched. It's truthful. I promise you it is. And of course, there are other factors that are more often considered. One of them, significant strikes, leg kicks, ground control time, takedowns. Different fights vary in terms of judging. I think, in my opinion, what it depends on is what the judges favor that night. It really is. And judging by the first fight that I saw last night, I think it was a prelim fight. I forget the name of the fighter, but he won basically off of leg kicks. Judging by that fight alone, I felt like Pereira was going to win if the fight made it to a decision, because Pereira obviously was going to spam leg kicks and get a bunch of them on a guy like Magomed, who is he's lead leg heavy and takes a bunch of leg kicks in almost every fight. So I expected Pereira to just have a field day with leg kicks, and leg kicks are scored. You know, those do count as points. Whether or not they count as considerable points depends on what the judges favor that night. You know, in certain fights in Abu Dhabi, where there are a lot of Russian grapplers, you kind of tend to think that takedowns and ground control time is going to be considered with more emphasis. You know, in the eye of the judges. Tonight last night surprised me. What happened last night completely and utterly surprised me. I was pretty much convinced that Pereira won that fight after it had ended. From what I remember, Pereira had moments. But the main reason I was convinced that Pereira won was just because of the plot armor. Pereira is a beloved fighter. I consider him to probably be the LeBron of the UFC. He's loved all over. I'm pretty sure he's the most popular UFC fighter ever, really. The whole Chama thing, all of that has stuck with fans, and Pereira has like an army. He's got an army behind him. Not even Brazilians, not even all Brazilians. Young men from all over the fucking world worship the guy. So I kind of felt like the UFC was going to give Pereira the benefit of the doubt, no matter how close the fight was or no matter what really happened. But I was really surprised. And then when I look back on the fight, and a lot of people might disagree, I've seen a considerable amount of Ankalaev fans in my comments, so I am feeling safe when I say these things. When I look back at that fight, I feel like Ankalaev won it. I really do. Ankalaev outstruck Pereira, even wobbled him at one point. Arguably, what happened could have been considered as Ankalaev dropping Pereira too. Pereira fucking did that shit again. You know, the shit that Izzy made him do before. Ankalaev did that to Pereira last night. And while a lot of people might have glossed over that or disregarded that and felt like Pereira, the leg kicks and other shit like that gave Pereira the fight, and they may have felt like Ankalaev was stalling and acting like Mario Bautista when he held Pereira against the cage, I would argue that Ankalaev didn't hold Pereira against the cage for that fucking long, okay? Ankalaev did stand and bang with Pereira, more so than Mario Bautista dared to do against Jose Aldo. So I still think Magomed Ankalaev won in convincing fashion. He really did. He outstruck Pereira. He was faster than him, more head movement. Pereira is really reliant on that, dropped hands. You got to get past my power type of fighting style. And Ankalaev was fast enough to get past the power. He really was. And then, he was able to also switch gears and get right into the grappling. I know he didn't score one takedown against Alex, and credit to Alex for that. That ground game looked crisp in terms of takedown defense. But still, Magomed was holding Pereira against the fence and being active as well with constant knees to the legs of Pereira. And we've seen certain fighters adopt that fighting style or adapt that sort of sequence at times in their fights, and they found success with it. A lesser known fighter that I recall did exactly that was Raquel Pennington. Before she lost the belt, I think she lost the belt recently. But when she won the championship, she won the championship with that fighting style, just pretty much, fighting against the wall of the cage, or at least grappling against the wall of the cage, being in control, and throwing knees to the legs of your opponent, constant short little punches. And while it may be seen as like stalling, but I think it's still a facet of MMA. There are arguments that can be made on both sides for this. I want to say for this situation, I guess I'll call it, for this situation alone, I would side with Pereira, and I would side with Ankalaev, because the grappling is still arguably a part of MMA, and you got to mix it up. Ankalaev mixed it up. He didn't just only do that. He also struck with Pereira and outstruck Pereira. He did. Pereira had some clean shots that did knock back the head of Ank, but I feel like Ank had more clean shots that knocked back the head of Pereira. Okay? Ankalaev took the fight to Pereira, had Pereira on the back foot for a considerable amount of that fight too. That plus the head movement, plus the connected shots that was bouncing Pereira's head back, plus the fact that he wobbled Pereira, arguably dropped Pereira. Ankalaev did his thing with this fight, man. This was his Bilal moment. Now, there is the question of what happens next, and I'll go into that in my next video. But overall, I just wanted to use this video to just fully recap what I saw last night. Like I said in my full fight prediction, I was rooting for Ank. So if you go to my live stream, because I have them all recorded and posted on this channel, I did scream, and I was really, really happy about it, because I wanted a fresh face with the belt, and I got it. Ank got the belt, man. I'm really happy about it. What comes next for him? It's up to the UFC, because Ank has pretty much said that, he'll fight anybody. He's kind of adopted that Islam Makhachev mentality as champion, which I like and I appreciate and I respect. He's open to fight anybody next, as long as they are, quote unquote, deserve it in the UFC's eyes. But overall, I think it was a good fight. And credit to Pereira, any fight that he's in is a good fight. It's an edge of your seat, must-watch performance, because, you just know some crazy shit is going to happen. So I still heavily respect Pereira. He's obviously got a ton of options still. I still think he can move up to heavyweight or still down to middleweight right now to fight the champion of heavyweight or the champion of middleweight. A lot of people are arguing against me, saying that, if Pereira loses to Ank, he can't do any of that. He still can. He's still arguably the face of the UFC still. He might not be in the coming weeks, but as of right now, he's still the face of the UFC. And what he's done recently before this loss to Ankalaev has been amazing. 2 knockouts against Yuri Prohaska, made Khalil Roundtree quit. knocked out Jamal Hill. Come on, crazy fights at light heavyweight. So yes, his reign was amazing. Chama all the way. I'm not a Pereira fan, but I respect the guy. He's a great guy. He's a really great, considerate motherfucker. He's got a lot of power in his hands. He's scary to deal with, and he's got options. And he can still make the GOAT list. He can still make the GOAT list. Yeah, he took a loss to Ankalaev. He's not going to make like top 5, but he can still make the GOAT list. He can still make top 10, top 15, top 20. You know, maybe he is already top 20. I got to think about that. But still, he can make the GOAT list. Just not the top group, the tippity top group that have guys that only lost like once or not at all. You know, he can't really beat those guys, but still, he can make it there. Maybe top 5. Maybe top 5 is still in the consideration. You know, but yeah, I respect Pereira. Congrats to Ankalaev. Motherfucker is the champion. He actually did it. He beat Alex Poatan Pereira. I know he's got to be fucking over the moon right now. Dagestani guy too. So Dagestani domination is back, and it's here to stay for at least up until the next fight that Ankalaev has. Overall, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and turn them notifications on because YouTube likes to fuck with my viewership. So make sure you turn those notifications on so you know when my next video is out, because I post like 2 to 3 videos a day, and you need to be sure about when they're coming out. I love you guys. I'll see y'all in the next.